about why SEO is a vital PR and media relations component. And Lisa's going to tell us some PR SEO secrets. That's terrific.
Can't wait to share them.
Great. All right, so I think you probably all know who we are, but just a little quick reminder. Lisa Beyer is the author of the book Social PR Secrets, available, of course, on Amazon, and she also does the Social PR Chat. When is it, Lisa?
Social PR Chat is actually my online publication. So
okay.
Publish weekly on different trending topics that have to do with SEO or social media and also related to public relations. Everything's tied together.
And I think that most people who come on the press feed seminars, webinars know who I am. But in case you've forgotten, I also have a book. It's called Smart News, How to Write Branded Content That Gets Found in Search and Shared on Social Media. So, Pressfeed has just completed the 2015 Media Trends Report, and the media trends we're looking at this year are the fact that newsrooms in the media are shrinking and how that affects the practice of PR and media relations. Search engines have become the most trusted source for news and information. That might be a fairly startling piece of information for you. The big demand for visual content, the fact that it's growing. The media wants to see all your content in one place. They're looking for a digital content hub, otherwise known as your newsroom. And the reason that media uses analytics to produce content that gets results and how you can do that as well. And there's the link where you can download it. The deck will be available on SlideShare about 10 minutes after the webinar. You will, of course, all get an email with the link, and the recording will be available in the Pressfeed newsroom on Monday morning. So in today's webinar, we're going to be concentrating on 2 and 3, which is all about SEO and PR, and that's why I invited Lisa to speak to us. So we're going to talk about search visibility. And these are the 2 points that Lisa sent to me. And would you like to tell us why you say that, Lisa?
So the 2 points here is that number one, PR can be one of the most valuable secret weapons for SEO and vice versa. And it used to be that SEO was more technical than it is today, and now today SEO is more about content, and PR, public relations, has always been about content, and whether we're creating news content or articles or content that's related to events or different things related to our company's products or news, that's content. So optimizing that content is going to help with SEO, and so the 2 teams together, SEO and public relations, are going to do the best when collaborating together. So SEO, in my opinion, is one of the most underutilized skills and strategies by the PR industry, so there's huge opportunity because still today, 10 years later, not a lot of public relations professionals are using it the way that they possibly could be, so there's a huge advantage.
So yes, it is 10 years since we first started talking about optimizing news content, and it's a bit shocking that there still is such low adoption. So we're hoping that this will make a difference. So I'd like you please all just to fill in, you can write it in the question section, the answer to this question. What is your biggest challenge that you face using SEO for PR? If you'd just like to take a second, just type in what you feel is your biggest challenge, and I will take a look at it at the end, and we'll put together some content that could help you with that, but we would really appreciate it if you could just write that into the question section. Thank you so much. So here is the Edelman Trust Barometer. This was published early in 2015, and this is where this information comes from, that search is now the most trusted source for news and information. Any comment on that, Lisa?
I think it just kind of goes with the sign of the times. Everybody is using search to start research or confirm research, so journalists are doing the same thing. So I just think it's just proof of why public relations professionals and SEO professionals working together and each adapting a little bit of knowledge sharing on each other's, as far as what each other's strategy is, it can go a long way.
Cool. So we do know that this is where it's, the search engines are first and most, that as you say, everybody uses it, but now it's also the most trusted source for news. So yes, it is something that should really get the PR juices flowing. So we want to optimize the entire newsroom. I've heard a lot of people talking about optimize your content, optimize your press releases, optimize this, but you also need to look at the overall picture, that your entire newsroom should be found when people are looking, particularly the media. News journalists or bloggers are going to be looking for your brand, or they're going to be looking for items that you might have news about, and your newsroom should show up. So here's the #1 SEO tip. Google is the 800-pound gorilla, and Google dictates the rules. And the most important element for Google right now is good quality content. That was your tip, Lisa. Do you want to expand?
Sure, and I think that you were asking, as far as the trust thing, the trust barometer. So I think that why Google is the most trusted source, or search is the most trusted source, is because Google is going out of their way to make sure that they're serving up search results that are for the user. So they're constantly updating their algorithms, not so much for the businesses and the websites, but for the users. So having that excellent content and that quality content, so when you're doing a search for whatever you're doing a search for, you want to make sure, you want the best, you're going to pick the best results, and you want the best results to come up. So having that quality content that is coming from the public relations professionals and is newsworthy is going to be critical.
Right. And content is definitely the common denominator between SEO and PR. There are more and more SEO firms now looking for digital PR to bolster their SEO, because the old way of doing SEO is not getting the results. You have to have content.
Definitely, and I think that SEO, the SEO professionals, they've had to raise the bar as far as the way that they do their services, and public relations professionals also have to raise the bar as far as what they're doing and how they're doing it. It's completely changed landscape compared to how it was even 5 years ago. So search and social have to be brought into the strategy, and if you're going to bring search into the strategy, you have to have somewhat of a working knowledge on how to optimize.
Absolutely. So this is the Google Quality Checklist, and obviously you can read it quite clearly in the deck if you're going to download the deck, or if you want it in a better quality PDF. It is on my blog, Proactive Report, and so you can get that link when you get the deck. So I just wanted to give you a couple of examples. Fuhu is the #1 company, fastest growing company in the US on the Inc. 5000 list. For the second year running this year, that's also quite a feat. Not very many companies have made #1 twice in a row. But when you do a search for Fuhu in Google, this is what you get. You do not anywhere see their newsroom or their press releases. You'll see here it says more results, from Fuhu, and if you click that, then we get something that we might find interesting. Let me just get rid of this now.
I think the interesting thing about this, Sally, also is that if their newsroom or something that said related to news did come up in the search results, and that's pretty much what a lot of people, not just journalists, but users want to see, is what's the latest information that that the company is talking about. So whether it's something that's the latest social, share, whether it's the latest tweet or latest Facebook post or the latest press release or the latest media coverage, I think if that did come up, that would be something that would be clickable
right.
to both journalists and the different audiences.
Sure. So when you click if you were to click on that Get More, then you see their press. Now you see it does show up under About Us, Contact Us, Press. So why can they not make it show up right away? Because many people are not going to do that. It should be showing up here. That would be better. And Quest Nutrition is the number 2 on the Inc. 5000 list. No search visibility anywhere, not even when you go to more results. There's nothing. None of their press releases show up. No Newsroom shows up. Now here's a different example. This is a financial services company in the New York area on Long Island. And when you search for their brand name, their Newsroom as a separate item comes up as the number 2. And that's in Google, and this is in Bing. It shows up in their block. First thing, Newsroom. So it's just a question of making sure that that happens. So some Newsroom tips. Lisa, do you want to go over these? These were your tips.
Sure, I'll go over these, and then just going back to the last slide that you were showing. So it might not be the job of the public relations professional to optimize the Newsroom on their own. If they teamed up with an SEO agency or an SEO professional, the two of them together, it would be to the public relations department's advantage to have the Newsroom show up, because if the Newsroom is showing up in search, then that Newsroom and those press releases and those announcements are going to get more and more exposure, and that's going to end up, helping the public relations effort. So some tips that definitely public relations professionals can do on their own without the help of an SEO pro would be to make sure that if you're using your social media profiles, bios, to use the link that links to your actual Newsroom versus the home page. So xyz.com/news versus xyz.com. Using keywords in your bios on your social media profiles will also attract attention, especially if you're using the link to the Newsroom, and also optimizing those profiles using appropriate hashtags. So it might be a branded hashtag, or it might be your product hashtags, or it might even be events that you're associated with hashtags. And then making sure that your news is shareable. So this is something Google's looking to see what content is popular and what content is attracting visitors. So if you're having somebody land on, whether it's a blog post or a news article, and that person likes it, make it as easy as possible for somebody to share that and give it that viral effect and attract, do the work for you, where they're sharing their news with friends and getting that attention. So these 3 things are to me, pretty easy things that you can implement, tactics you can implement to add an SEO strategy to your public relations.
Cool. So there are meta tags that go into the Newsroom, and again here you would be working with your IT department or your SEO people. But I firmly believe that you shouldn't leave the content of these tags to the IT people. They're wonderful at what they do, but they have a very different skill set. And bear in mind that this is what people see as a headline and an introductory description in Google. So this could be one of the most important pieces of persuasive content that anybody ever sees. So it's really good if you know how to write these tags, or you just can tell the IT people the wording that you would like to have show up in Google. You need a title and you need a description. So if you look at this, the title says Newsroom and the brand name and the location. And then the description says this is news from David Lerner Associates, headquartered in Syosset, New York. And then if you go back, that's where that's coming from. Okay.
It might also look intimidating, Sally, to if you don't have to know code or know HTML to do this. So at first glance, it might look slightly intimidating, but this is probably the most advanced you'd really need to get as far as what looks like here code.
It's just this bit here. That's the bit that you need to give them. Say, this is what I want in my title, and that's what I want in my description.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all you really need to do. And then they will do all the fancy. Now, why is that doing that? I don't want it on top of everything. Oh, good heavens. Erase all drawings. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. So you could also make sure that the brand or company name is at the top of the page and that you're using the name in a couple of places. So this is what they've done up here, the David Lerner Associates News. And then it's there and here for the company information. It's also over here on the RSS feed. So there are a couple of places on the page of the home page of the newsroom where it says the name of the company. So Google doesn't have to guess whose newsroom this is. And then Lisa, you were talking about what kind of searches the media tends to do.
Yeah, I think when writing any type of news content, to think about if you're the media and you're a journalist and let's say you're starting a story, how does the mind of a journalist work, and what would they be searching for when they're starting to find sources, maybe using Google or using a Google search or even a Bing search. So you want to think like the media, and keeping in mind you want to have obviously your brand name, your company name in the press release, but you want to also think of one main keyword or keyword phrase that's going to be used throughout the press release, so that you can get found using that keyword. So that might be different for depending on the press release that you're working on, and just to keep in mind that keyword phrases are typically better than keywords because they're less generic and more specific. So thinking before you start your press release, okay, what is the keyword phrase that I'm going to focus on and use throughout the press release? Not in a way that's going to be, the user isn't going to find it redundant, but that it's going to be at least used enough times so that if somebody's searching on it, Google's going to, it'll be a trigger for Google to serve it up.
Good. So let's look at a few little examples here. When you search Chevron press releases, see their 2015 press releases come right up. And then a second listing for the news. The first one is the investor one, the second one is the news. Now when you do that search for FUHU, you actually search FUHU press releases, then their press room comes up. And their product is Nabi Kids tablets. And that one comes up as well, which is good. So you're getting the corporate press releases and the product one. However, when you search for something that journalists very often do search for, the subject, and they're looking for an expert. So if someone was writing an article about kids' tablets, and I'm looking for an expert on kids' tablets, FUHU doesn't show up anyway. And they really should. I mean, that's a huge missed opportunity.
Definitely.
So let's take a look at how did these newsrooms score. We looked at the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 and the Inc. 500 companies. And the Fortune 100, 32% of them actually do show up on page one. But that still means that the vast majority are not. So there's a big opportunity here. Less in the Fortune 500, 25%. In the Inc. 500, now these are the fastest growing privately owned companies in America. I would imagine that they would really want media coverage. And yet it's only at 17% of them that show up, their news shows up in Google when you do a search for the brand. So go ahead, Lisa.
I was just going to say it just shows that if you're a small to medium-sized business, you can probably move a little bit faster than some of these larger Fortune 500, Inc. 500 companies in making these changes. And it just shows that you can, really, compete no matter what size business you are against some of these larger companies, because to them, making these types of adapting these changes and mindset is not happening overnight. It's it's been 10 years and it's still not happening. So if you're
overnight, over decade.
Yeah, imagine if you're a startup, you start with a fresh, clean slate and you can do some of these things that are just best practices that still Fortune 500s are not doing.
Right. So let's look at it in different pieces of content. We're going to take text first. So this would be your press releases, blog posts, articles, tweets, all those kind of things. Now, how many of them are optimizing their written content for search? A little bit better in the Fortune 100, getting up to closer to half. Fortune 500 a bit behind, over a third. The Inc. 500 still really hardly anybody. So again, lots of opportunity. Just keep thinking about what's the other side of this coin. We're trying to get visible to the media. The media is using search engines to find the content and the stories and the story ideas and the experts to interview. All these things they're searching for. And so if your content is in there, you're going to beat these guys out by a country mile.
Definitely. I mean, ultimately you want to get, the journalist, because then the journalist, to write the story that's going to get you to that broader audience, that larger audience. But it's also a way that you can reach, go direct with your news to your end user and to your prospect and to your current customers. So those are, also taking into consideration. They're doing the searches too, not just the journalists, and you're coming up and you're serving up your news directly to your audience versus having to even go through the gatekeeper, go through the journalist. Even though ideally we want the journalist to still, that's who we want to reach, but you can go direct.
Absolutely. And there have been cases of companies that have done really good optimized press releases that have got fantastic results in a direct situation like that. There was one that I heard about that I thought was an interesting one. They sell very expensive products and they have a very small market. And they didn't even want to do this because they said, oh no, we know everybody that buys our kind of product. It's very niche. And they were persuaded to do a couple of press releases and really SEO them well. And they found a new client. They only got 8 leads, and the company, the agency that did the press releases for them was mortified. They were like, oh my God, they only got 8. They're really going to be disappointed. They were over the moon. We found 8 people that wanted our product, and one of them we had never dealt with before, and they bought for over $1 million. So here are just some really specific. The length of your headline, for Google particularly, 58 characters, including spaces. It used to be a little longer, but they have increased the font size on their search result pages, and so it's taken it down a little bit. And then make sure that your keywords are actually close to the beginning of that headline. Because if it does go over 58 characters, you don't want the most important thing to be cut off. You can make the headline as long as you want, but just realize that Google only is going to display a certain amount and index a certain amount. And then in the subheading, 120 characters, you can put subheads in the text, which helps too, breaks up the text. Put different headlines, make them bold, use your keywords in the title and the subhead close to the beginning, in the first paragraph and the last paragraph. But as Lisa said earlier, make sure that your text reads and flows very easily and naturally. No keyword stuffing. Come back to quality content. It should be a really rich piece of quality content. So rather use synonyms. Google is getting very clever. They do know that addiction and substance abuse are actually the same thing. So here's a quick example. This was the actual headline. Kids' usage of smartphones and tablets outpaces all other electronics. Now that's long, and you see what happens? It gets cut off, and then you just get this ... And if your keyword is beyond that ... it's not then going to be found for that keyword. There's another one here, and again, you see the condition of Latinos. What? We have no idea. Anything you wanted to add to that, Lisa, quickly?
Yeah, I was just going to add that, I've been doing it for so long that my brain just kind of works in writing and optimizing at the same time. But I also have a lot of writers that I work with that aren't necessarily trained in SEO writing. So you can still take something that maybe it's a press release or a news article that might not be optimized, but if you know some of these, these key tips that you just went over, these best practices, you can easily edit the content to make it to upgrade it to be a little bit more or a lot more optimized. So you can start with something that's not optimized and then take it and edit it so that it is optimized.
Okay, we have a question here. It says, I'm a little confused. Is the purpose of SEO to make the newsroom show up in search? Or is the purpose of the newsroom to have the company website show up early in search? What we're talking about here is actually to have the news section of the site show up. You can also, the news site and the content in the news section can help the overall website show up early as well, but we're specifically talking here about getting your news section to show up high in the ranking as well as the overall website.
But I think it's also a good point, Sally, that you just made, that if the more traffic you can drive to your newsroom on your, as part of the website, the better it's only going to help the overall website. So you're helping the entire domain if you're driving more traffic to the newsroom.
Right. And then there was a question from Jean. She says, how often do you use the keyword phrase?
Well, I think if you go back a couple slides, Sally, I think you went over that.
Yeah, she just is saying is 3 times enough. I said that's actually 4. In the title, the subhead, the first paragraph, and the last paragraph. But just, Jean, be careful that if you have a very short press release, it's not a hard and fast rule, but you shouldn't ever have it more than about 2% of the overall word count. And if it starts to read like, let's say it was organic apples. So you've got organic apples in the title, in the subhead, and then you've got organic apples, and this is an organic apple orchard, and we do organic apples, and organic apples make the best organic apple cider. By now, everyone's going, oh my God, this is the worst piece of text I've ever read in my life. So it's really this quality content that still reads well for the reader. It's got to be very natural. You can't have it stuffed in there 1,000 times because that's really not going to work.
And there's also tools that you can use. I think, Sally, you might have included a couple of them at the end, but I like Scribe SEO. So anything that we write, whether it's a blog post or a press release or any type of content, you can, after you write it, you can put it through kind of a test through Scribe SEO, and it'll rate it and give you a score and let you know if if you've used the keyword phrase too many times. Maybe you think you're writing with a certain keyword phrase, but when you put it through, it's actually not coming up as your primary keyword phrase. So there's different tools you can use to kind of double check your work and make sure that you're on the right track with optimization.
Okay. All right, so there was a question about keywords in the title, or in the headline. We do need to have a keyword in the headline so Google knows what this press release is about. Your headline should not be long. Keep it to 7 or 8 words. Check it 58 characters. And then make sure that the keyword is as close to the beginning of the headline as you can. And please bear in mind that your brand isn't always a keyword.
Yeah, I would say that's one of the biggest mistakes public relations professionals make in press releases, is that if you look sometimes at a newsroom, company newsrooms, you'll see the list of press releases, and every press release starts the same way. It would be, let's say the press release is about the buyer group. The buyer group announces a new social media product. The buyer group announces a new book has been published. The buyer group announces, so it's just imagine you're the reader, it seems like the same thing over and over again. So instead of starting every press release with the company name announces, get creative, but also keep the SEO in mind. So it needs, like Sally was saying, it needs to be short, it needs to be, have keyword phrases in it, but it also needs to basically get the point across in a very, limited number of characters.
Right. For those of us who've been doing SEO headlines since 2006, 140 characters in Twitter seemed like a holiday. All right, so let's just talk about visual. There's been a huge demand for visual content, as I'm sure everybody knows. And the media in particular is responding to the public's demand for images and video. So they're looking for news content with really, really good visuals. Almost every editor that I have spoken to in the last 6 months has told me that that is the differentiating factor. If you send me a press release that has a whole little news capsule with all the images and video, and it's great video, I'm more likely to use it. In fact, probably will. There was a study out from DS Simon about 2-3 weeks ago saying that 86% of all media is using outside produced video. It's like the hugest opportunity. So this is what you need in your newsroom. It should have an image gallery. You must be using original images. Now that there are tools like PicMonkey and Canva, C-A-N-V-A, there's no excuse not to make wonderful images. You don't need to be a Photoshop guru anymore. You should have high and low-res versions. You should be making infographics and charts with all your press releases. There should be a video gallery that has interesting short videos that have news value. Remember we used to make those things called video news releases, VNRs? If you know how to do that, you know how to make a short news video. If you don't, there must be ways that you can figure out how to do this. One that's really getting a big boost at the moment, getting lots of attention, are called explainer videos. They're these little animated things. How does the product work? How do you do this? How do you do that? And then when you have a video that's on Vimeo or YouTube, there is a thing called an embed code, and you can find it on YouTube. And yes, the journalist could find it too, but why would you make them go from your site to YouTube to do 3 clicks to look for an embed code? You can do that. You can serve that up to them. So it's really important to offer all these things. This is what journalists are looking for. So let's look how they scored. Fortune 100, not too badly. Image gallery, over 70%. Then a drastic drop into the Fortune 500, down to 20%. And a sad little 10% in the small private companies. High quality images, from the 70% to 34%, down we go. So they have an image gallery, but it doesn't have great stuff in it. The Fortune 500 wasn't such a big drop, but it was a drop, and the Inc. 500 went down to almost nothing. So, and is this visual content optimized for search? No, it's not. Again, we're seeing the same, 26%, 16, 3. So if you take an image, it's not that hard to do this. I pulled this picture of Lisa out of my picture gallery. Right-click on the picture, and this little thing comes up here, and you click on properties. And I can then fill in the title, the subject, and I can put all the tags in. And now all this data, which is called metadata, is tacked onto this picture of Lisa. So wherever this picture goes, if I post it online, all this information goes with it. So just be sure that also when you name it, if you take a picture yourself and then you pull that picture off your camera, it'll come off like this, the 006677.jpg. That means nothing to anybody, least of all to the search engines. Rename it. This is Lisa Byers' SEO webinar picture. Okay.
The advantage of that is that whatever the images are that you're uploading, if they're product images or they're, your executive team images, that's going to come up in Google search, possibly in, regular Google search, but, also in the Google image search. So, it's a way for you to dominate real estate in the search engines, but using visuals.
Yeah, for sure. So the name of the tools again is PicMonkey. I'll put it in here if I can type and hold this phone at the same time. PicMonkey. And then there's another one called Canva. Okay, I'll put them in the chat. All right, so I want to go a little bit quicker because no Lisa has to go. So video gallery, much worse than the image gallery, under 30% for the Fortune 100s, and then down and down to almost nothing in the Inc. 500, no video gallery. Embed codes is actually just a laugh. We won't even mention it. They're not doing it. And this is crazy because the media, it's almost 100% of the media are asking for embed codes, and we're just not getting that memo. Why make it hard for them? These guys are under so much pressure. They're really having a hard time. That's what the one media trend about shrinking newsrooms is all about, and how that's affecting the practice of PR is that you've got to work harder to help them do their job. So the video optimization tips are very similar. You need to use the keywords when you name the video file. When you make a title of the video, make it very descriptive. Put the keywords in it. You can make a thumbnail when you put up a video on YouTube, and you can make a custom thumbnail. One that really sort of says what the video is about will get more views. Why is that important? Because views counts in the YouTube search algorithm. And I don't know if you are aware of this, but YouTube is the second biggest search engine now after Google. It is a search engine. People search there for stuff. So you do want your videos to show up, and they have to be engaging and interesting because YouTube only counts a view after 10 seconds. So if they come on and they look at it for 2 seconds and go, meh, and they get off, YouTube very soon figures out that your videos are boring and they ain't going to show them to anybody. And then you need to tag them with keywords. So here are Lisa's favorite SEO tools. You want to go over them, Lisa?
Sure. So these are all free tools that you can use when you're creating content that you can double check whether or not it's optimized, or if you want to just kind of learn a little bit more about optimization. So SEOtools.com is one of them. Uber Suggest, it's cool. It gives you suggestions of keywords if you're not sure what you want your keyword or what looking for ideas for keyword phrases. So the example that Sally gave earlier was, what was it, apple farm or something? Organic apples. So apples is the most generic. Organic apples is less generic, but caramel organic apples is even more specific. So that might be, if you have caramel organic apples, then it would be easier for you to get found in search if you were more specific using that. Google.com/trends, this is a great way to see what topics are trending, and a great way to see what topics are trending, and also maybe you can ride that topic out and newsjack in a very appropriate way. So if something's trending, so it's Earth Day, you might have organic products or earth-friendly products that you could have tied into that trend. Scribecontent.com used to be called Scribe SEO. That's owned by Copyblogger. I love all of the different products and services and content that Copyblogger puts out, so I love scribecontent.com. They also have a couple different types of products that you can look into too, from WordPress themes to also hosting services, and then also their blog is very informative when it comes to all types of content marketing.
Okay, and mine would be, I write about these things a lot, so does Lisa, so I would suggest you read our blogs. So yours is Social PR Chat, right?
socialprchat.com, and I write for a couple other publications. Every once in a while I write for Clicksy, for Search Engine Watch, and a couple other publications. So yeah, definitely look at some of those media outlets, and also my book, Social PR Secrets. But I'm sorry, Sally, I'm going to have to run right now. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take the top 10 questions and do a blog post on the top 10 questions asked, and do an FAQ on this topic, however you want to handle it.
I will collect all the questions and I will forward them to you, and we'll figure it out, and then we'll email everybody where they can find that content. I know you have to run. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks for having me, and sorry everybody for the early technical difficulties, but hopefully it was worth hanging on, and you can also follow me on Twitter. Thanks, Sally.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
So I'm going to look at the questions, and just while we're doing that, I'd like to say, just remember that an awful lot of this in detail is in my book, Smart News, How to Write branded content that gets found in search and shared in social media. So I just want to make sure that I've answered all these questions. Okay. I am, again, really sorry about the problem we had in the beginning, but I hope we sorted it out. All right. Okay, let me just go through all of these. And we will also write some blog posts and Q&As for you on the answers to what is your biggest challenge. So I'm going to go through those. But I think the other questions were all I think we have answered them all. Let me just check. If you have any more questions, please put them in. Is Google AdWords a good SEO content tool? That keyword planner, I do use it. It is, if when you use it, you have an option to get groups of keywords or keyword ideas. Just click the one on the right, the keyword ideas. And Carrie, do we have more webinars like this one? Yes, I have a webinar like this every month. We do it for our press feed clients, but anyone is welcome to come. And now that you're on our list, you will be advised whenever we have one. The next one is in May, and I'm hoping that our guest is going to be Dr. Nora Gannam-Barnes, a professor from Dartmouth. And she's going to be talking to me about the Inc. 500 and their use of technology and how they're doing and how they could do better and how smaller companies can do better. Yes, we will be sharing the recording and the slides. It should be, the slides will be up within a half an hour on SlideShare. You should get an email over the weekend giving you the links to the video, which should be up in the Pressfeed Newsroom on Monday. I'll just go back here one for Beth. Hold on one second. Oh, what happened? I didn't want to do that. Can we go back? We can. There we go. Okay. So Beth, can you see that scribe content here at the bottom? scribecontent.com. Is there anything else? Where can we find the deck? I will put it on SlideShare. And if you go to slideshare.net/Sal-Falco, excuse me, it's S for sugar, A-L, F as in Frank, A-L-K-O. And I'm going to put that link into the chat box. It'll be uploaded on my SlideShare account in about a half an hour. So all of this will be available to you in a little while, and thanks very much for attending, and hopefully we'll see you next month. If you have, if you want an evaluation of your own newsroom, you can ask for a demo on the Pressfeed site. It's press-feed.com. And if you just go onto the Pressfeed site and you request a demo, that will come to me and you put your URL in there. I will do a full evaluation of your current website and do a free 30-minute consultation with you on, and answer your questions on a one-on-one if you would like to do that. So just go to Pressfeed, click the demo, and then fill that little form in, and it'll come to me, and I'll contact you, and we can set up a time for a one-on-one. Again, thanks very much. I hope you enjoyed the webinar, and we'll see you on the next one next month.